Jessica, let's be honest. You're not the woman I married anymore. The words sliced through the champagne-soaked air of the Grand Ivy ballroom like a knife through silk. 200 guests froze mid-conversation. The string quartet stuttered to silence. Even the ice in the cocktail glasses seemed to stop melting. Jessica stood there in her lavender dress, the one she'd spent 3 hours choosing, the one that hid the softness around her middle, the one that made her feel almost like herself again, and watched her husband's mouth curve into something that wasn't quite a smile. Brad adjusted his Rolex, smoothed his Tom Ford tie. His new girlfriend, 24, spray-tanned, poured into a bandage dress, pressed against his arm like a designer accessory. She had the body Jessica used to have, the body Jessica gave up 9 months ago to bring their son into the world. "I need a partner who takes care of themselves," Brad continued, his voice carrying across the room with practiced clarity. "Someone who can still turn heads. You understand?" The ballroom smelled like lilies and expensive perfume, and the death of everything Jessica thought was real. Her mother-in-law looked away. Her best friend's mouth hung open. Her brother-in-law pulled out his phone, already recording for the family group chat. This wasn't their 1-year-old son's birthday party. This was an execution, and everyone had front-row seats. But here's what nobody in that ballroom knew. 10 years later, that same man would stand in a very different room, wearing a very different expression, holding a very different kind of paper in his trembling hands. This is the story of how Jessica didn't just survive what happened that night. She built an empire on top of its ashes. Jessica Martinez grew up in a neighborhood where ambition was measured in blocks, how far you could get before the dream wore off. Riverside, Illinois. 3-bedroom house with aluminum siding that rattled when trucks passed. Her father drove one of those trucks, 18-wheelers that took him away for weeks at a time. Her mother worked double shifts at Cook County Hospital, coming home with feet so swollen she couldn't get her shoes off. Jessica was 7 when she decided she'd never smell like disinfectant and diesel fuel. She was 14 when she got her first job at the pharmacy on Madison Street, stacking shelves before school. 15 when she taught herself Excel and Access during lunch periods in the library. 16 when she took the SAT 3 times until the score opened doors her last name couldn't. Northwestern University wasn't just an acceptance letter. It was a passport. She studied economics and psychology, the science of why people want things and how to give it to them. She graduated summa cum laude with a job offer from Greystone Marketing Group before she even walked across the stage. 22 years old, pulling $70,000 a year, wearing Ann Taylor pantsuits from the outlet mall and feeling like Rockefeller. Her mother cried when Jessica signed the lease on her first apartment. Logan Square, exposed brick, windows that overlooked the city she'd conquered. "You did it, mija," her mother whispered, touching the granite countertops like they might disappear. "You got out." Jessica didn't correct her, didn't say she wasn't out. She was up. There was a difference. That's when she met Brad. Brad Sutherland didn't grow up in Riverside. He grew up in Kenilworth, where lawns had names and garages had more square footage than Jessica's childhood home. His father owned 3 car dealerships. His mother sat on the board of the Art Institute. His college tuition was a line item, not a second mortgage. They met at a client dinner. Greystone was pitching his father's company. Jessica ran the presentation, 40 slides on market segmentation and consumer psychology, delivered without a single note card. Brad sat in the back row, watching her the way people watch fireworks. Afterward, he waited by her car. "You're brilliant," he said. Not, "That was brilliant," or "Great job." "You're brilliant." She should have heard the possessive pronoun, should have noticed how he looked at her like she was something he could acquire. But she was 24, and he was handsome, and when he took her to dinner at Alinea, a restaurant she'd only read about, she felt like she'd crossed another finish line. They dated for 18 months. He proposed at the Drake Hotel in front of his entire family with a ring that cost more than her father made in a year. She said yes because she loved him, because he made her feel chosen. Because when you grow up measuring success in blocks, sometimes you don't see the cage until the door closes. They married in June, 250 guests at the Chicago Botanic Garden. Her mother wore a dress Jessica bought her. Her father wore a suit that didn't quite fit. Brad's groomsmen wore matching Rolexes, gifts from the groom. Jessica looked at the wedding photos later and realized she was smiling with her mouth, but not her eyes. She was 26. The first 2 years of marriage felt like an extended audition she hadn't realized she was in. Brad wanted a wife who looked good at fundraisers, who could discuss the Dow Jones over brunch and Bordeaux over dinner, who stayed a size 4 and blonde and agreeable. Jessica delivered, because she'd spent her whole life delivering on expectations that kept moving further away. She worked 60-hour weeks at Greystone, made senior account manager before she turned 28, brought in clients that billed 7 figures annually. Her boss told her she was on track for director by 30. Then Brad wanted a baby. Not, should we have a baby, or are you ready to have a baby? He wanted one. The same way he wanted the Maserati, the same way he wanted the Lincoln Park townhouse with the rooftop deck. My father had his first kid at 28. Brad said one night, scrolling through his phone while Jessica answered emails on the couch. We're behind schedule. She was 29. She wasn't ready. But she'd spent her whole life accommodating other people's timelines. 3 months later, she was pregnant. The pregnancy was brutal. Hyperemesis gravidarum, the kind that puts you in the hospital for IV fluids because you can't keep down water. She lost 12 pounds in the first trimester, then gained 50 in the second and third. Her body stretched and swelled and transformed into something she didn't recognize. Brad stopped touching her around month 5. You need to be careful, he said, watching her eat pasta at the dinner table. Baby weight is hard to lose. She delivered their son, Ethan Michael Sutherland, on a Tuesday in October. 8 pounds, 6 ounces. 10 fingers, 10 toes, eyes like hers, nose like Brad's. She fell in love instantly. Brad held him for the hospital photos, then handed him back to the nurse. Jessica took 12 weeks of maternity leave, pumped breast milk in the bathroom between meetings when she returned, worked from home 2 days a week because daycare wouldn't take infants under 6 months. She was exhausted. She was 30 pounds heavier than her wedding day. She had stretch marks that no cream would fade. She bought the lavender dress, got her hair done, wore the diamond earrings he'd given her for their 3rd anniversary. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw someone trying very, very hard. She should have stayed home. The party started at 6. Golden hour light poured through the ballroom's floor-to-ceiling windows, turning everything into a filtered Instagram post. White roses spilled from crystal vases. A champagne fountain bubbled near the entrance. A cake shaped like a carousel sat on a marble table. 3 tiers, fondant horses, gold leaf accents. Ethan wore a tiny navy suit. Jessica held him on her hip while guests cooed and took photos. Her mother-in-law, Patricia, smiled for the camera, but didn't ask to hold her grandson. You're looking well, Jessica, Patricia said, which was rich person code for, you look terrible. Brad was across the room, laughing with the partners from his father's firm. His hand rested on someone's back, not Jessica's. A girl in a white cocktail dress, young, fit, familiar in a way that made Jessica's stomach twist. She handed Ethan to her mother and walked over. Hey, she said softly, touching Brad's elbow. Can we talk for a second? He looked at her the way you look at a telemarketer. I'm in the middle of something. It's Ethan's birthday party, Brad. Our son's party. The girl in the white dress, Brittany, Jessica would learn later, an administrative assistant at the dealership, sipped her champagne and examined her manicure. Brad sighed, set down his drink, turned to face Jessica with an expression she'd seen before, the one he used when a client asked for a discount. "You know what?" he said, loud enough that the conversations around them started to fade. "Let's talk." That's when it happened. The speech, the announcement, the public dismantling of everything she thought was solid. "I think we all know this marriage has been over for a while," Brad said, addressing the room like it was a shareholder meeting. His voice carried. People stopped dancing, stopped eating, stopped pretending they weren't listening. Jessica's throat closed. "What are you doing?" "Being honest." He smiled, not at her, at the audience. "You're a great mother, Jessica. Really. But let's be real. You're not the woman I married anymore. And I need a partner who takes care of themselves. Someone who can still turn heads." Brittany stepped closer, slipped her arm through his. "You understand," Brad finished. The silence was so heavy Jessica could feel it pressing against her chest. 200 people, 200 witnesses. Her mother stood frozen by the cake. Her father's face had gone red. Her best friend, Alicia, was halfway to the door, phone out, fingers flying across the screen. Patricia smoothed her St. John's suit and looked away. Jessica stood there, still holding her purse, still wearing the lavender dress, still believing, stupidly, desperately, that this was a joke or a test or a nightmare she'd wake up from. Brad kissed Brittany, not a peck, a real kiss, the kind that says mine. The room erupted in whispers. Jessica walked out. She didn't run, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. She walked through the ballroom doors, past the marble lobby, into the parking garage that smelled like gasoline and rain. She got into her car, still decorated with baby-on-board decals, and sat there with the engine off and the windows fogging up. Then she called her brother. "Come get me," she whispered. "Please, Marco, come get me now." He was there in 11 minutes. She left the venue without her son. Patricia took Ethan home with her, sent a text at midnight. "He's fine. We'll discuss custody arrangements tomorrow." Jessica spent that night on her brother's couch in Pilsen, wearing his old Bulls hoodie, eating cold pizza she couldn't taste, staring at the ceiling until the sun came up. The video hit Facebook by morning. Someone had recorded the whole thing. Brad's speech, Brittany's kiss, Jessica's face, pale and frozen and destroyed. It had 4,000 shares by noon. The divorce moved fast, brutal and surgical, like an amputation without anesthesia. Brad filed first. His lawyer, a shark in a Brioni suit named Mitchell Crane, had the papers drawn up before Jessica even knew they were separated. She got served at work, in front of her team, by a process server who didn't make eye contact. "Mrs. Sutherland, sign here." Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the pen. Brad wanted full custody, joint at best. His argument was simple. Jessica worked too much, traveled for clients, couldn't provide the stable home environment Ethan deserved. The fact that Brad had publicly humiliated her at their son's birthday party somehow didn't factor into his definition of stability. Jessica hired a lawyer she couldn't afford, Susan Brennan. 58 years old, gray hair cut sharp as a blade, a reputation for winning cases everyone said were unwinnable. Her retainer was $15,000. Jessica's savings account had 11. She borrowed the rest from her parents. Her mother insisted it was fine. Her father didn't say a word, just wrote the check with a hand that trembled with rage. The custody battle lasted 4 months. Brad's legal team painted Jessica as an absent workaholic who prioritized career over motherhood. They brought up every late meeting, every business trip, every school event she'd missed because she was building the life Brad wanted. They didn't mention that Brad missed every pediatrician appointment, every midnight feeding, every time Ethan woke up screaming with an ear infection. The judge split custody 50-50, alternating weeks. Jessica got Ethan Monday through Thursday. Brad got him Friday through Sunday. It felt like losing him twice a week. The divorce settlement was worse. The townhouse, bought with Brad's family money, went to Brad. Jessica got the condo in Rogers Park they'd rented out. 2 bedrooms, old radiators, a view of the L tracks. Brad kept the Maserati. Jessica kept the Honda Pilot with 80,000 miles and a broken passenger side mirror. No alimony. The prenup she'd signed at 26, when she was young and in love and didn't think she'd ever need a safety net, made sure of that. Child support was calculated based on income. Brad's father paid him through a complicated LLC structure that made his official salary look like $40,000 a year. Jessica's was $90. She paid him support. $300 a month. She signed the papers in Susan's office on a Friday afternoon. Her hand didn't shake this time. It just moved, mechanical, detached, like signing someone else's death certificate. "You're going to be okay," Susan said, not unkindly. Jessica didn't believe her. The worst part wasn't the money or the custody or the public humiliation that followed her like a smell. The worst part was the silence. Her phone used to buzz constantly. Clients, colleagues, friends from Northwestern, invitations to fundraisers and gallery openings and brunches where women wore athleisure that cost more than groceries. After the divorce, the buzzing stopped. People didn't know what to say, or they knew exactly what to say and chose not to. Social capital is a currency, and Brad's family had more of it than Jessica ever would. Alicia still called. Her brother still showed up with takeout. Her parents still babysat. Everyone else disappeared. Greystone Marketing was polite about it. They didn't fire her. They restructured her role. Fewer clients, smaller accounts. A new office on the 3rd floor instead of the 7th, where the bathrooms smelled like mildew and the windows didn't open. Her boss, Derek, delivered the news with a sympathetic smile. "We just think it's best if you focus on work-life balance right now. You know, with everything you're going through." Work-life balance was corporate code for, "You're an embarrassment." She kept her head down. Did the work. Came in early, left late, pumped out presentations and reports and campaign strategies for clients who used to request her by name and now forgot she existed. Her performance reviews were fine. Good, even. But she stopped getting promoted, stopped getting the high-visibility projects, stopped being the woman they sent to pitch new business. At 31 years old, Jessica was invisible. She lived in the Rogers Park condo with furniture from IKEA and curtains that didn't quite fit the windows. Ethan's room was painted blue, his favorite color. She kept his toys in labeled bins and his clothes organized by size. When he stayed with her, she cooked his favorite meals and read him stories until he fell asleep in her arms. When he stayed with Brad, she sat alone in the living room and listened to the trains rattle past. She gained another 15 pounds, stopped wearing makeup, cut her hair short because it was easier to manage, wore the same black slacks and blouses to work every day because who cared, really, what she looked like. The woman in the mirror wasn't the woman who graduated summa cum laude or landed the job at Greystone or believed she could conquer anything. She was someone smaller, quieter, apologizing for taking up space. And that's when the notification popped up. It was a Wednesday night. Ethan was at Brad's. Jessica was heating up leftover Chinese food in the microwave, scrolling through her phone without really seeing anything. LinkedIn. The algorithm served her a post from someone she didn't remember connecting with. A woman named Dr. Renee Pritchard, founder and CEO of something called the Phoenix Initiative. The post was simple. 10 years ago, I lost everything. My business, my savings, my marriage. I slept in my car for 6 weeks. Today, I run a company that helps women rebuild after catastrophic setbacks. If you're starting over, you're not starting from zero. You're starting from experience. That's worth more than capital. Jessica read it 3 times. She clicked through to Dr. Pritchard's profile. PhD in organizational psychology. Former VP at a Fortune 500 company. Author of a book Jessica had never heard of. Headshot that radiated calm competence, gray hair, bold glasses, expression that said she didn't need your approval. The Phoenix Initiative was a business incubator, specifically for women rebuilding after major life disruptions, divorce, illness, job loss, bankruptcy. It offered funding, mentorship, resources. Jessica's finger hovered over the Learn More button. She almost didn't click it, almost closed the app and ate her lo mein and went to bed. But something about that line, "You're not starting from zero," lodged itself in her chest like a splinter. She clicked. The application was long. 15 pages. Questions about business ideas, financial history, personal setbacks, long-term goals. It asked things like, "What problem do you want to solve?" and "Why are you the person to solve it?" Jessica stared at the blank fields for 20 minutes. Then she started typing. She wrote about growing up in Riverside, about working her way through Northwestern, about building a career at Greystone only to watch it plateau the moment she became inconvenient, about the divorce, the humiliation, the custody battle. She wrote about the women she knew, women like her who'd sacrificed and built and contributed, only to be discarded when they stopped being decorative. She wrote about an idea she'd been turning over in her head for months. A consulting firm. Not for Fortune 500 companies. For small businesses owned by women who didn't have access to Greystone's fees or resources. Marketing strategy, brand development, digital presence. Affordable, accessible. Built on a model that scaled with the client's success. She called it Catalyst Strategies. "Women don't need to be rescued," she wrote in the final essay question. "They need to be equipped. Give them the tools, and they'll build their own ladders." She submitted the application at 2:40 a.m. Didn't think about it again. 6 weeks later, she got the email. "Congratulations. You've been selected as one of 12 participants in the Phoenix Initiative's 2018 cohort. Your interview is scheduled for March 15th at 10 a.m. Please confirm your attendance." Jessica read the email 4 times to make sure it was real. She called Alicia, who screamed so loud Jessica had to hold the phone away from her ear. "You're doing this," Alicia said. Not a question. A command. "You're going to that interview and you're going to crush it and you're going to build a goddamn empire." "I don't even have a business yet," Jessica said. "It's just an idea." "Ideas are how everything starts, Jess. You think Brad's family built their fortune on certainty? They built it on taking shots." The interview was in Boston. The Phoenix Initiative's headquarters occupied 3 floors of a converted textile mill near the waterfront. All exposed brick and industrial beams and windows that let in the kind of light that made everything look possible. Dr. Renee Pritchard met her in the lobby. 72 years old, if her Wikipedia page was accurate, handshake like a vice, eyes that missed nothing. "Jessica Martinez," she said, not a question. "Walk with me." They didn't go to an office. They walked through the building, past conference rooms where women were running financial models on whiteboards, past studios where product designers were building prototypes, past a kitchen where someone was testing recipes for a meal prep business. "Everyone here lost something," Dr. Pritchard said. "Marriages, jobs, homes, custody of their kids. The thing about loss is it clears the deck, removes the illusion of safety, makes you realize you're capable of more than you thought." Jessica didn't say anything, just walked. They ended up in a glass-walled office overlooking the harbor. Dr. Pritchard gestured to a chair. Jessica sat. "Tell me why you're angry," Dr. Pritchard said. "Not, tell me about your business plan or walk me through your financials. Tell me why you're angry." Jessica blinked. "I'm not—" "Yes, you are. I've read your application, watched the video. I know what your ex-husband did. I know you're still bleeding from it. So tell me, what are you angry about?" Jessica's jaw tightened. Her hands clenched in her lap. "I'm angry," she said slowly, "that I did everything right. Everything they told me to do. Worked hard. Played by the rules. made sacrifices, and I still ended up being thrown away like I was defective. Good, Dr. Pritchard said. Anger is fuel. Most people waste it. They burn it throwing plates or picking fights or writing passive-aggressive emails. You're going to use it to build something that makes them irrelevant. She slid a folder across the desk. $50,000 seed funding. Office space here in Boston for the first year. Mentorship from me and 3 other advisors. Access to legal, financial, and marketing support. In exchange, we take 5% equity in your company. Non-voting shares. You keep control. Jessica stared at the folder. That's it? That's it. Most accelerators take 20–30%. Make you pivot until your idea doesn't even look like yours anymore. We don't do that. We give you what you need and get out of your way. Why? Dr. Pritchard smiled. Not warm, not cold, just certain. Because 30 years ago I was you, and nobody gave me a damn thing. I had to claw my way back alone. It took twice as long and cost me twice as much as it should have. I built this so women like you don't have to do it the hard way. Jessica opened the folder. Contract, terms, an NDA. Her hands were shaking again. Not from fear this time, from possibility. I accept, she said. Good. You start Monday. Jessica moved to Boston in April. Not permanently, just during the week. She found a sublet in Allston, a studio apartment above a Thai restaurant. The smell of basil and chili oil seeped through the floorboards. It was $600 a month and barely big enough for a bed and a desk. It was perfect. She flew back to Chicago every Thursday night to pick up Ethan. Spent her weekends with him, parks and museums and movie nights where they built blanket forts and ate popcorn until he fell asleep on her lap. Monday mornings, she flew back to Boston. Her parents watched Ethan during the week. Her mother didn't complain. Her father told Brad to go to hell when he threatened to petition for full custody based on Jessica's unstable living situation. She's building something, her father said. You wouldn't know anything about that. Brad didn't file. The Phoenix Initiative wasn't a co-working space with free coffee and ping-pong tables. It was a boot camp. Jessica and the other 11 women in her cohort met every morning at 7. They reviewed metrics, identified bottlenecks, stress-tested their business models against worst-case scenarios. Dr. Pritchard didn't coddle. Your pricing is too low, she told Jessica in week 2. You're undervaluing yourself because you're still operating from a scarcity mindset. Stop it. Jessica raised her consulting rate from $75 an hour to $200. She lost 2 potential clients immediately. She landed 3 who paid on time and referred her to others. By month 3, Catalyst Strategies had 15 active clients. Small businesses, women-owned mostly, a bakery in Providence, a fitness studio in Portland, an Etsy shop selling handmade jewelry that needed help scaling. Jessica worked 16-hour days. She built websites at midnight, ran social media campaigns from coffee shops, taught herself Google Analytics and SEO and email marketing automation. She didn't have employees, didn't have an office outside the Phoenix Initiative. She worked from her laptop, a portable hotspot, and a customer relationship management system she found on sale. She was exhausted. She was also alive for the first time in 3 years. Revenue in year 1, $87,000. After expenses and taxes and flying back to Chicago every week, Jessica took home $32,000. Less than she made at Greystone. She didn't care. Year 2 was harder. Jessica hired her first employee, a recent grad from Boston University named Mara Chen, who knew more about digital marketing than Jessica ever would. 23 years old, sharp as glass, willing to work for equity and $30,000 a year. You're underpaying me, Mara said during the interview. I know, Jessica admitted, but in 3 years your equity will be worth 6 figures if this works. Mara started Monday. They rented a real office, Somerville, above a record store, 2 rooms, exposed pipes, windows that stuck, Rent was $2,000 a month. Jessica signed the lease with hands that didn't shake anymore. Catalyst strategies grew. 30 clients, then 50, then 75. Jessica built a reputation for one thing: getting results. She didn't promise miracles, didn't sell dreams. She sold strategy, specific, actionable, measurable. Her clients' businesses grew. Revenue increased. They hired employees, expanded. They referred her to everyone they knew. By the end of year 2, Catalyst Strategies brought in $312,000 in revenue. Jessica took a salary of $65,000, put the rest back into the business, hired 2 more employees, bought real furniture, started turning down clients, only taking on businesses she believed in. Brad heard about it somehow, sent her an email. "Glad to see you're getting back on your feet. Ethan mentioned you're traveling less. Good for him. B." She deleted it without responding. Year 3 was the year everything changed. Jessica was invited to speak at a women's business conference in Chicago. Small event. 200 attendees. Panel discussion on rebuilding after setbacks. She almost said no. Public speaking wasn't her strength. The idea of standing in front of people who might recognize her, might remember the video, might still see her as the woman Brad humiliated, made her stomach twist. Dr. Pritchard called her. "You're doing it," she said, no preamble. "You don't get to hide anymore. Your story matters. Tell it." Jessica flew to Chicago, stayed with her parents, practiced her talking points in the mirror until they sounded less like a rehearsal and more like truth. The panel was on a Saturday morning. The ballroom at the Hyatt Regency was full, women in blazers and jeans and everything in between, entrepreneurs, corporate refugees, survivors. Jessica sat on stage between a woman who'd rebuilt after bankruptcy and another who'd left an abusive marriage with nothing but her kids and a suitcase. The moderator asked the question Jessica had been dreading. "What was your lowest moment?" Jessica took a breath. Then she told them. Not the sanitized version, the real one. She told them about Brad, about the birthday party, about the video, about standing in a ballroom full of people who watched her get destroyed and did nothing. She told them about the divorce, the custody battle, the way her career evaporated, the condo in Rogers Park, the nights she ate cereal for dinner because groceries were expensive and Ethan needed new shoes. She told them about the Phoenix Initiative, about Dr. Pritchard, about building Catalyst Strategies in a studio apartment that smelled like pad thai. "I used to think my value was tied to being acceptable," Jessica said. "To being what other people needed me to be. My ex-husband needed a trophy. My job needed me to be convenient. I spent so much energy trying to fit that I forgot I could build something that fit me." The room was silent. Catalyst Strategies exists because I got tired of asking permission, tired of waiting for someone to give me a shot. You don't need their approval. You need a plan and the guts to execute it. That's it. The applause started small, then it built. By the time Jessica stepped off the stage, women were lining up to talk to her. One of them was Elena Vasquez. Elena Vasquez was 46, born in Mexico City, raised in Los Angeles, educated at Stanford. She'd spent 20 years in tech, VP of product at a company Jessica had heard of but couldn't afford to use. She'd also just been forced out. A new CEO, a new vision, a severance package and an NDA and a very clear message: you're obsolete. "I saw your panel," Elena said, handing Jessica a business card. "I've been trying to figure out what's next. I think I just found it." They met for coffee the next day. Spoke for 4 hours. Elena wanted to build something, not another tech company. Something tangible. Something that helped people who looked like her, sounded like her, came from where she came from. "I want to invest," Elena said, "in Catalyst, in you." Jessica blinked. "Invest? $500,000 for 20% equity. I know that's steep, but I'm not just writing a check. I'm coming on board, scaling this, building infrastructure. You've proven the model works." Let's take it national. Jessica flew back to Boston and called Dr. Pritchard. Take the money, Dr. Pritchard said. She's offering expertise you don't have, capital you need, and if you negotiate well, you keep control. Jessica negotiated. Elena got 15%. Jessica kept the rest. They signed the papers in June. Catalyst Strategies 2.0 launched in September. With Elena's investment and operational expertise, Catalyst Strategies transformed. They opened offices in 3 cities, Boston, Chicago, Austin. Hired 12 full-time employees. Built proprietary software that automated parts of the marketing process, making services affordable for businesses that couldn't pay Greystone's rates. They didn't compete with the big firms. They served the people the big firms ignored. Revenue in year 3, $1.2 million. Year 4, $3.8 million. Year 5, $9.3 million. Jessica made Forbes' 30 under 40 list at 35. The article called her a quiet disruptor, mentioned the Phoenix Initiative, glossed over the divorce because successful women aren't supposed to have messy personal lives. She didn't care. The business was growing. Ethan was thriving. 10 years old now, smart and kind, and completely unaware that his father's new wife was already his father's 3rd girlfriend since Brittany. Brad sent another email. Saw the Forbes article. Impressive. We should talk about adjusting child support now that you're doing so well. B. Jessica forwarded it to her lawyer. Didn't respond. A month later, Brad's lawyer filed a motion to recalculate support. Jessica's lawyer, still Susan Brennan, still sharp as a knife, responded with financials that showed Brad's family LLC had been underreporting his income for years. The motion was denied. Brad's father had to pay back taxes. Jessica didn't smile when Susan called with the news. She just said, good. By year 6, Catalyst Strategies employed 47 people across 4 offices. They'd consulted for over 800 businesses. Their clients' combined revenue growth was north of $60 million. Jessica was offered acquisition deals monthly, private equity firms that wanted to buy Catalyst and streamline operations, which meant gut the mission and jack up prices. She turned them all down. If you've watched this far, drop a comment about a time you had to rebuild. I read every one. And if this story is hitting you in the chest, share it with someone who needs to hear it. They'll thank you later. The call came on a Tuesday. Jessica was in her office, the real one now, with windows overlooking Boston Harbor and furniture that didn't come from IKEA, when her assistant buzzed. There's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. Who is it? A pause. Brad Sutherland. Jessica's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. She set it down carefully. Send him in. Brad looked older, still handsome, still wearing a suit that cost more than most people's rent. But something had shifted. The confidence was brittle. The smile didn't reach his eyes. He stood in her doorway like he wasn't sure he was allowed to enter. Jessica, he said, you look good. She didn't stand. Didn't offer him a seat. Just looked at him the way you look at a stranger who's lost. What do you want, Brad? He stepped inside, closed the door. His hands were in his pockets, a tell she remembered from their marriage. He only did that when he was nervous. I heard about your business, he said. Catalyst. It's impressive, really. You already said that. In the email. 6 months ago. Right. He laughed, empty, performative. I guess I did. Silence filled the space between them. Through the window behind Jessica, a ferry cut across the harbor, leaving a white wake that dissolved into gray water. Brad sat down without being invited, leaned forward, clasped his hands together. I'm in trouble, he said. Jessica waited. The dealerships, Dad's business, we're not doing well. The market shifted, electric vehicles, online sales. We didn't adapt fast enough. We're losing money. A lot of money. I'm sorry to hear that, Jessica said. She meant it the way you mean, bless you, when someone sneezes. Automatic. Meaningless. We need help, marketing, rebranding, a complete overhaul of our digital presence. I looked at firms. The big ones want $500,000 just for the audit. But you, Catalyst, you have a reputation for doing more with less. Jessica understood now why he was here. You want to hire me? I want to hire your company, yes. We can pay. Not what we used to be able to pay. But we're good for it. And Ethan, this is his inheritance, Jessica. If the business goes under, it affects him too. There it was. The trump card. The thing he knew she couldn't argue with. Jessica stood, walked to the window, watched the ferry disappear around a bend. How much are you thinking? She asked. 200,000 for a full rebrand, 6 months of consultation, strategy, implementation. It was a fair number, maybe even low for the scope of work. Jessica turned to face him. No. Brad blinked. What? No, I'm not taking your business. Jessica, this isn't about us. Yes, it is. Her voice was calm, flat. The kind of calm that comes from having nothing left to lose. You stood in a ballroom full of people and told me I wasn't good enough. You introduced your replacement before you even told me we were done. You humiliated me because I didn't look the way you wanted me to look after carrying your son. Brad's face went red. That was 10 years ago. I know exactly how long it's been. I've spent every single one of those days building something you'll never understand. Not a business. Myself. And you don't get to walk into my office and ask me to save yours. This isn't about revenge, Brad said, standing now, voice rising. This is about being an adult, about doing what's right for Ethan. Ethan is fine. Ethan has a college fund I started the day you cut me off. Ethan has a mother who shows up, who knows his teachers' names and his favorite books and what makes him laugh. What does he have from you, Brad? A last name and a father who only remembers he exists when it's convenient? Brad's jaw worked. He looked like he wanted to say something, wanted to yell, wanted to do what he always did when someone told him no, bulldoze until they said yes. But this wasn't his ballroom. This wasn't his world. If you need marketing help, Jessica said quietly, Catalyst has a referral network. I'll have my assistant send you 3 firms in Chicago that specialize in automotive. Good ones. They'll do right by you. But not you. No, not me. Brad stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Once. Sharp. You've changed, he said. No, Jessica corrected. I just stopped pretending to be what you needed. He left without another word. Jessica stood at the window until she couldn't see him anymore. Then she called Ethan. Hey, kiddo, how was school? His voice poured through the phone like sunlight. He told her about the science project he was building, about the book he was reading, about the friend who taught him a card trick. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Do you think Dad is okay? He seems, I don't know, sad, I guess. Jessica closed her eyes. I think your dad is going through a hard time, but that's for him to figure out, not you. You're the kid. He's the parent. That's not your job. Okay. A pause. Are you okay? Yeah, baby, I'm good. And for the first time in a long time, she meant it. Brad's business filed for bankruptcy 8 months later. Jessica heard about it through Ethan, who heard about it from Patricia, who delivered the news the way you deliver a terminal diagnosis, quiet and final. The dealerships were sold. The Kenilworth house went on the market. Brad moved into a condo in Evanston. Not small, not tragic, just smaller. Brittany left him, married someone else. Posted the photos on Instagram. A beach wedding in Turks and Caicos, her in white, him in linen, both of them smiling like nothing that came before mattered. Brad stopped asking for child support adjustments, started showing up to Ethan's soccer games, sat on the opposite side of the field from Jessica, but he was there. Jessica didn't gloat, didn't feel vindicated. She just felt tired. Tired of carrying anger that didn't serve her anymore. She focused on what mattered. Catalyst Strategies opened an office in Denver, then Atlanta, then Seattle. They launched a fellowship program, funding and mentorship for women entrepreneurs from underrepresented backgrounds. 20 fellows a year, full support for 18 months. Dr. Pritchard showed up to the first cohort's graduation. 83 years old now, still sharp, still uncompromising. "You did it," she told Jessica afterward. "You built the thing that didn't exist when you needed it." Jessica hugged her, hard. "I learned from the best." Year 10. Catalyst Strategies was valued at $78 million. Jessica owned 53%. She'd been offered acquisition deals that would have made her wealthy beyond anything she imagined as a kid in Riverside. She turned them down. Not because she didn't want the money, because Catalyst wasn't for sale. It wasn't a business. It was a mission. They'd consulted for over 3,000 companies, helped create 1,800 jobs. Their clients' combined revenue was north of $400 million. Jessica was 40 years old. Ethan was 15, tall, smart, kind in the way that came from watching his mother survive. He wanted to study engineering, talked about building things that helped people. "Like you," he said one night over dinner. Jessica smiled. "I don't build things. I help other people build them." "Same thing," Ethan said. "You give people tools. That's building." She didn't argue. The invitation came in March. The Chicago Business Council was hosting its annual gala. Black tie, $1,000 plates, awards for innovation, leadership, community impact. Jessica was being honored as Entrepreneur of the Year. She almost declined. Galas felt like Brad's world, like walking back into the fire. But Alicia talked her into it. "You earned this, Jess. You get to take the stage this time. You get to be celebrated." Jessica flew to Chicago, stayed at the Peninsula, bought a dress that actually fit, navy blue, elegant, nothing like the lavender one from a decade ago. The gala was at the Drake Hotel, the same place Brad proposed. She noticed, didn't care. Ethan came with her, wore a suit his grandfather helped him pick out. Looked so much like Jessica's father it made her chest ache. "You look nervous," Ethan said in the car. "I am," Jessica admitted. "I don't love being the center of attention." "You're not the center of attention. Your work is." 15 years old, already wiser than she'd been at 30. The ballroom was full, 500 people, Chicago's business elite. Jessica recognized faces from a decade ago. Some smiled, some looked away. She didn't care about either. The award presentation was after dinner. A video played. Clips of Jessica speaking at conferences, interviews with her clients, footage of Catalyst's offices across the country. Then the MC took the stage. Tonight's honoree represents something we talk about a lot but rarely see executed: resilience. Jessica Martinez built Catalyst Strategies from nothing. Not nothing like a garage startup with venture capital. Nothing like surviving public humiliation, financial devastation, and a system designed to keep women small. She didn't just rebuild her life. She built a ladder for thousands of others to climb. The applause started before Jessica even stood. She walked to the stage. Ethan was on his feet, clapping so hard his hands had to hurt. She took the microphone, looked out at the crowd, and saw Brad. He was at a table near the back, not in a tuxedo, in a regular suit. He looked diminished, not in a cruel way, just in the way people do when the armor finally comes off. Their eyes met for a second. She looked away. 10 years ago, Jessica said, I thought my value was determined by other people's approval. By whether I was pretty enough, accommodating enough, small enough to fit into spaces that were never designed for me. I spent so much energy trying to belong that I forgot the most important thing. Belonging isn't something you earn. It's something you build. She paused. Let the words settle. Catalyst Strategies exists because I got tired of asking permission. Tired of waiting for someone to tell me I was good enough. This award isn't mine alone. It belongs to every woman who's been told she's too much or not enough, who's been discarded, dismissed, or underestimated. This is for you. You don't need their approval. You never did. The applause was deafening. Jessica walked off the stage, hugged Ethan, let him hold her while she finally cried. Not from sadness, from relief. She was done carrying the weight of what had been done to her. After the gala, after the photos and congratulations and champagne toasts, Jessica found herself alone in the hotel lobby. Brad was there, sitting in one of the leather chairs by the window, staring out at Michigan Avenue like he was trying to solve a problem that didn't have an answer. She could have walked past him, should have, probably, but she stopped. Brad. He looked up, startled. Jessica, hey, congratulations. You deserve it. Thank you. Silence. Not uncomfortable, just empty. I was wrong, Brad said finally. About you, about what mattered. I thought I needed something I didn't have. Turns out I had everything and just couldn't see it. Jessica didn't disagree, didn't comfort him, just nodded. I hope you figure it out, she said. For Ethan's sake. He loves you, Brad said. Talks about you constantly. About the business, about the women you help. I think he's proud of you in a way he'll never be proud of me. Jessica's throat tightened. He's proud of you too, Brad. You're his dad. That matters. Does it? It could, if you show up. Not just to soccer games, to the hard stuff, to the conversations, to being present. Brad nodded. Looked like he was going to say something else. Changed his mind. I'm glad you're happy, Jessica. I mean that. I believe you. She left him there, walked out into the Chicago night. The city glittered, cold and indifferent and full of possibility. Ethan was waiting in the car. Ready to go home? She asked. Yeah, he said. Let's go home. Jessica didn't stop building. Catalyst Strategies expanded into Canada, then London, then Singapore. They launched a venture fund, investing in women-led startups that traditional VCs ignored. 50 investments in 5 years, 42 were profitable. Jessica wrote a book, not a memoir, a manual. Catalyst, How to Build a Business That Builds You. It sold 100,000 copies in the first year. She was invited to speak at Harvard, at Stanford, at conferences in places she'd never imagined visiting. She said yes to the ones that mattered, no to the ones that didn't. Ethan graduated high school with honors, got into MIT, studied mechanical engineering, built things that helped people. Jessica cried at his graduation, not because he was leaving, because he was becoming. She thought about that night in the ballroom, the lavender dress, the humiliation, the version of herself who thought being discarded meant she was defective. She wished she could go back and tell that woman, this isn't the end, this is the beginning. But she couldn't, so she told the women who walked into Catalyst's offices instead, the ones who'd lost jobs and marriages and confidence, the ones who thought they were starting from zero. You're not starting over, she told them. You're starting from experience, and experience is the most valuable thing you'll ever own. 15 years after the birthday party, Jessica stood in a different ballroom. Not as a guest, as a keynote speaker, the annual Phoenix Initiative Summit. 2,000 women, entrepreneurs, survivors, builders. Dr. Pritchard introduced her, 91 years old, retired but still sharp, still showing up. Jessica Martinez didn't need me to save her, Dr. Pritchard said. She needed someone to believe she could save herself. That's all any of us need, belief and tools and the guts to use them. Jessica took the stage, looked out at 2,000 faces, 2,000 stories, 2,000 women who'd been told they were finished and decided to prove otherwise. I used to think revenge meant making the people who hurt me regret it, Jessica said. I was wrong. Revenge is building something so big they become irrelevant, so meaningful they can't touch it, so yours they can't take it. She paused. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need permission. You just need to start. Start messy. Start scared. Start anyway. Because the woman you're becoming is worth more than the approval of anyone who couldn't see your value. The applause lasted 3 minutes. Jessica stood there. Let it wash over her. Thought about the girl from Riverside who wanted to escape. The woman from Rogers Park who wanted to disappear. The founder who wanted to prove something. And the person she was now, someone who didn't need to prove anything anymore. She'd already won, not because Brad lost, but because she built something that outlasted the pain, something that mattered, something that was hers. Catalyst Strategies turned 20 years old last month. The company is worth $312 million. Jessica still owns the majority. She's 50. Gray hair she doesn't dye. Lines around her eyes from smiling. A body she's made peace with because it carried her through everything. Ethan is 25, working for an infrastructure company in Detroit, building bridges, literal ones. He calls every Sunday. Brad remarried, someone age-appropriate this time. They seem happy. He coaches youth soccer, shows up to Ethan's life consistently now. Jessica is glad. Not for Brad, for Ethan. She never remarried, dated a few people. Nothing stuck. She's okay with that. Her work is enough. Her son is enough. The women she helps are enough. She doesn't need completion. She is complete. Last week, a woman walked into Catalyst's Chicago office. 29 years old, recent divorce, custody battle, career in shambles. She sat across from Jessica and cried. "I don't know how to start over," she said. "I don't know who I am anymore." Jessica handed her a tissue, waited until the crying stopped. Then she said, "You're not starting over. You're starting from experience, and experience is the most valuable currency you'll ever have." The woman looked up. "Did someone tell you that once?" Jessica smiled. "Someone showed me. Now I'm showing you." There's a picture on Jessica's desk. Not from the gala, not from Forbes, not from any award ceremony. It's from Ethan's first birthday party, the one that ended in humiliation. In the photo, Jessica is holding Ethan. He's laughing, one-tooth wild curls, sticky fingers grabbing her face. She's looking at him with an expression that's half exhaustion, half worship. She keeps it there to remember, not what Brad did, but what she survived, and what she built on the other side. So here's the question I'll leave you with. What are you building on the other side of your worst moment? Drop it in the comments. Your story matters. We're building something here, a collection of people who appreciate good stories like this. Every subscription moves us closer to 1,000 subscribers. Next story might just be what you need to hear all along. Your name on that subscriber list matters. Will you be on it when we hit the goal? See you in the next one.